You're tuned in to Work the Word, a ministry out of Inspire Church, Metro Manila. And I'm Nolan. I got my friend here, Elvy, and I also got my friend Josh. It's a moment where we get together over coffee and we just dive into the Word of God. And so for this episode, we are diving into the book of Joshua chapter 5, and we're going to be exploring just what happens when we shift our posture and realize that it's not about us, it's about God. And we will see just the amazing breakthrough once we take our eyes off of ourselves. And so, hey, as you watch, comment below, ask questions. We'll love to answer them in a later episode. Don't forget to subscribe, hit like, share it, hit the notification. And once again, it's time to work the word. All right, gentlemen, let's fight. So it's good to be with you guys again. Elvy, Josh. Yeah, cheers. Cheers. Where were you last time?
Nag-party. I had...
Cheers sa iba.
Hindi, company. So...
Oh yeah, businessman. Are you allowed to share your assets? Just kidding. No, but it's good to be... we had a great time without you. No, but what we've been doing here is we've been talking about the book of Joshua, how to actually activate the power of God in our lives. And we've been journeying through just from each of the chapters and seeing how Joshua moved into the promised land. We kind of talked about how, this is a point in time where it is, in a sense, a partnership, right? God is saying, hey, I've got this promised land for you. I've got this promise, but it is up to us to step into it. And so in episode 1, we talked about vision. Episode 2, we talked about choices. And this one, we're talking about posture. I loved the passage last Sunday. And so just to recap, the passage goes in Joshua 5, verse 13. It says, when Joshua was near the town of Jericho, he looked up and saw a man standing in front of him with sword in hand. And Joshua went up to him and demanded, are you friend or foe? Neither one, he replied. I am the commander of the Lord's army. At this, Joshua fell with his face to the ground in reverence. I am at your command, Joshua said. What do you want your servant to do? The commander of the Lord's army replied, take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy. And Joshua did as he was told. Grabe yun, no?
Powerful.
Oh, bro.
It's like a movie.
Oh, bro. It's like, think about it. Right at that time where they've entered, they're there. All the men are, back at camp because they were circumcised. They were set apart for God. Joshua is staring at Jericho, staring at the walls, trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to do this? And then, bam, the Lord with the sword right there. And I love Joshua, how he even was like, who are you, right? Are you friend or foe? And he's like, none. That was, it's crazy, right?
Sobrang sudden Pag sabi niya na, are you friend or foe? Parang, kasi I was listening to this Bible na audio. So
I don't read pala.
you know, yeah, I don't read. I don't know how to read. But, there's no gap there. Like Joshua right away. Like, I feel that along that journey, Joshua was constantly talking already to God. And all of a sudden, oops, hindi siya kaaway. Hindi rin siya, are you friend or foe, right?
Yeah.
Wala siya, neither. Parang tumatatak sa akin yung boses ni Pastor Nolan din na sabi niya, neither. So it's like,
Yeah, see, it's and it should be a usual human reaction that when you are in that crossroads of making a decision, making a choice,
Right.
nasa isip mo lagi, who's on my side? Who's gonna support you?
Yeah.
How am I supposed to do this?
Yeah.
If ever I get to do this, sino kasama ko?
Yeah.
How am I going to do this with? Pero ang ganda ng first point last Sunday, it's about having a kingdom perspective. It's actually having a paradigm shift. Kasi instead of us thinking of us
Right.
Yeah.
Kasi ang tanong niya, di ba, are you for us or against us?
Right.
But I love the explanation last Sunday kasi that shouldn't be the question. Because obviously the Bible says in Romans that God is for you. If God is for you, who can be against you? Given yan eh. But ang question niya, ang question ni Joshua, are you for us or against us? And God was trying to change the way he thinks, the way he would process things. It's not about us, who's for us or against us. The question is, are we for God or against him?
Right. Exactly.
So, ang question po, yung sa kingdom perspective, are we able to interpret it in that kingdom perspective? That's the first thing.
I think because
Was it Pastor Jay or was it?
it was more of the angel of the Lord came to me with a sword and said,
That's nice.
no, but because when I kept hearing the word promise, right, and we're talking about promised land, and we're talking about, that God has a plan and a purpose, I didn't want us to fall into that line of thinking that, oh nga, no, dapat God has something for me. Like, God, what is it? Become super, me, center, I'm in the center, everything revolves around me. Like, I got to figure out what God is going to give me and all of that. And I was like, we got to, I think that's why it popped up in Joshua 5. Like, it was a reminder to shift the focus. That he literally said, like, bro, it's not about you. like it's not about you that I'm for you. It's not about you that if I'm against you. Like, it's all about me. And are you for me? So it was a position where, or a thought where I'm like, okay, we got to make sure that we as believers remember at the end of the day, like, it's all about God. It's all about his team. Like, everything I'm doing, like, he should be asking us that question, right? Like, are you for me or against me today?
Yeah.
Imagine, like, wouldn't our choices in life be so different if God, Jesus with a sword appears to you every single day and be like, okay, what are your actions today? For me or against me? But in reality, we shouldn't have to really see him to live that way, because his word is enough. And it is a reminder that am I for him or against him, at my job? Am I for him or against him in my marriage? Am I for him or against him in my own purity? Am I for him or against him in my thought life, right? And I think that's something that we have to strive for. Yeah. Yeah, let's pray.
What do you think are the reasons why people are having a hard time? I don't want to use the word kasi hard time kasi may grace naman ng Panginoon. But siguro gamitin natin. How come us were having challenges focusing from ourselves to God? It's all about you.
Yeah. I think, I think at times we forget that we're supposed to be the stewards, right? If we think about Adam and Eve, and when God created Adam, and then, they created Eve, and they were there to steward, the garden. They were there to steward all of that, right? And it was not until they wanted something for themselves that the fall came, right? And I think sometimes what we get into trouble when I lose sight of, I gotta steward instead of I gotta get something for myself, right? And in our world, there's so many things that we gotta steward. And the crazy part is we're stewarding it in a fallen world. And so there's a lot of things that can go wrong in our world because we're not in heaven yet. But in the midst of that, we gotta steward everything that we have well. I don't know, what do you think, bro?
On a perspective na yung parang employer-employee relationship, it's like for each company, they have their own personalities. Like, for example, this company is more on the money, this company is more on the strategy, making also better like employee related improvements, something like that. So I was thinking about, like, it's also a dilemma for me, to be honest. In the past, it's like it's always pleasing my boss. So it's kind of also exhausting, draining. Napapagod ka at the end of the day kasi you want to please your boss and all of that. Pero pag inirelate mo sa, like, for this story of Joshua, it's like, okay, if my mindset is like that, if I'm serving a worldly boss, it's like parang parang you are kinda accountable in a sense na, okay, you just want to please God and like this criteria. But by God's grace, you get to grow. Like for me, I get to grow with like loving what I'm doing right now. Loving being a steward. Kasi it's not an overnight already, like it's like not an overnight success that you would appreciate. How can you be a steward? Like how can you be a better husband? How can you be a better like a manager in a company? So stewarding for me, it's like it's hard work. You cannot learn it like, okay, nung na-bless ka nung Sunday, all of a sudden, okay, good steward na ako ngayon. So it's like Joshua also. It's like a journey. You know, step 1, step 2, step 3. So for those people also who are watching us, like, okay, when you say kingdom mindset, when you say kingdom perspective, what do you mean by that? Yeah. So something like that. So it would be like, it's kind of a raw interpretation of my point of view also. So I'm not sure if it makes sense.
So absent siya last week.
Mabawi ba?
Stuck dun sa story of the Israelites, how did that affecting Joshua's plight? Yung perspective niya when they were in the desert. May impact yan that you think there's a reason why do you think experiences sa Egypt desert, how did that impact how he sees God, how he views God? That's why he ended up asking that question. Meron kaya?
Joshua is a guy who experienced in a sense every facet of life. I mean, he was a guy who experienced, I was already there and I was about to step, but we didn't, right? He was a guy who experienced what was happening in Egypt as a slave, right? He was a guy that experienced traveling in the wilderness, yet still seeing their shoes not deteriorating, you know? Seeing people whining, parang, right? Like, ayaw na pandesal, gusto ko inasal, right? And then God saying, and bringing the food and seeing this. So he was there to see disobedience and doubt. He was also there to see the faithfulness of God. He was also there to see, what happened in slavery. And he was also there when he realized that his mentor is not going to be able to get in because he crossed the line of frustration. Yeah. I think he asked that question because he didn't want to repeat the same mistakes over and over again. Like he didn't take the crossing of the Jordan and stepping his first foot into the promised land. He didn't take it for granted as if I don't got to do anything anymore. Andito na tayo, right? But I feel like his personality was like, I will not go back. Like, no way, I'm not gonna do it again. I'm not gonna go back, right? And so when he saw this person not knowing who it was, he pops that question because he's like, wait, are you gonna try to fight me so I can't pursue? Or are you gonna help me pursue, right? And then when God said, neither, I'm the commander of the Lord's army, I think the reason why he fell into a posture of worship and literally just bowing down is because at the end of the day, I could, like a movie, recalling all of the scenes, the pillar of fire, the cloud by day. He's remembering the manna falling off. He's remembering the water coming out of the rock. He's remembering all of these things that God did. And all of a sudden, boom, here is God. And now it's like, wait, I don't got to worry anymore, because it was his plan. And so then he falls down, right?
Ganda kasi nung ganda ng progression sa passage that you read earlier. When you read it so,
Yeah. If you want to hire me for voiceovers, I actually can. I'm just kidding.
I was thinking pag mag-devotion sa Pastor Nolan, babasa na.
May audio Bible na.
Bisaya.
Ganda na.
Pero Bisaya.
Grabe.
Pero di ba yung kasing first question, the progression kasi, he asked that question, are you for me or against, or are you for us or against
Yeah.
us? And then, when he realized it's not about it, it's not about, not even their job, they conquer the promise that, when he realized it was about God's agenda, God's purpose, God's glory, if you would go back to the passage, he asked another question, and this time he got it right. The second question is, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
So, ang tanong po, how can we cross over from asking, Lord, are you for me or against me, to Lord, what do you want me to do?
We're married, right? How long have you been married? 8 years. How about you? 11. I'm gonna be married on November 24, 16 years, right? And so, imagine in your marriage, you continue like, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? Right? Like, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? I think what happens is that when we're in our marriage, we're not always asking, what do you want me to do? Right? We don't. Because we assume we already know. Or we assume there's really no reason to. And so a lot of the conversations or the arguments is because we don't know what our spouse wants us to do. And they don't know what we want them to do, right? And when I think about that, like, how many times do I ask my wife in the day, like, hey, what do you want me to do? Or like, do you want me to, clean the whatever? Do you want me to do that for you? Do you want me to do that? And when Joshua says it to the angel of the Lord, right, I think it's really establishing that relationship again, right? Because you all know, if we're married and we keep saying, I want you to do this for me, like, that's how we're gonna lead our wife. You do this, you do this, you do this. Come on, what else are you gonna do for me, right? Like, it would not work. And so when it comes to God, what we have to realize is that, I think right then and there, he is reminding himself, like, oh, this is how the healthy relationship is. I gotta ask him, what do I do? What do I do? So, how do we figure out what he wants us to do, right? There's two camps, right? The first camp is you wait for a sign. Right? Like, you wait for a sign, you wait for him to magically tell you, or this super encounter and a vision, and then a prophetic word, and then a confirmation, and then a stranger looking at you and saying, right? Like, that's what we want. But at the end of the day, he's already told us what he wants us to do.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think if we actually do what he tells us to do already, then we would see the promise land in our life every day. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we have to be so mystical about it. Like, God, what do you want me to do? Because what does he say? Take off your shoes. Right? Take off your shoes. What was he saying? He was saying, just realize I'm God. Realize I'm holy. And if we begin to say, okay, God, like, this is showing me how to be set apart, which is what holy means. This is showing me how to take off my sandals wherever I'm at. Then if I just say, okay, God, I want to be set apart, and I'm going to do whatever it needs to be done to be set apart, then the rest will be revealed. The how to bring down Jericho will be revealed. But it only comes when I set myself apart. I don't know. Does that resonate?
Yes, actually, if you see a lot of progression, so when he asked that question, and then God realigned his perspective, from perspective that it's about me to it's about God and his agenda, his plan, his purposes. After that, diba, he asked the right question already, and then he worshiped God. And after he worshiped God, that's the time, chapter 6.
Yeah.
That was the time that God gave na the
exact,
specific,
yeah,
instructions, diba, na you go there, you go around,
Yeah.
doon na natin nakita eh. So I think God really is showing the order of things, right? Like what you
Yep.
said, no one said earlier, it's about your relationship with God first.
Yeah.
And after that, everything else will follow. Matthew 6:33. So it's really about his kingdom first, his righteousness first, and everything else will be given to us as well. Now, question ko is, kasi yung first 3 Sundays ago, it was about vision.
Right.
Vision. The second is making the right choices. And then that Sunday was about having the right posture.
Right.
And if you would look at, if I listened and watched the preachings a few days ago, the same YouTube chat and that. So if you haven't seen the preachings, you haven't watched it, please make sure that you do.
Yeah. Click like, subscribe, hit notifications, share, and tell the world.
That he established. Anyway, so on 3, you can get that vision. You can know if your choices are aligned. And you can have that right posture. If you're really spending time with God.
Right.
It's really about God's presence. If we can see the journey before they crossed, if nauna yung presence ni God, diba, the Ark of the Covenant, nauna dun sa Jordan River, diba? So nauna yun eh. So it's really about the presence of God leading us and us staying in there, spending time with God, knowing Him, reading the Word. So my question is, why do you think, kasi ako din eh, struggling ko rin yan eh. Why are we challenged in terms of being consistent, reading God's Word? So what do you think is the reason why?
When you really want something, you do anything to really get it, right? Let's just talk about health. Talk about eating healthy, correctly, right? We all know we should do it. We all know we should avoid some type of stuff and eat some other type of stuff. We know that too much lechon is not good for you. We know that too much cake is not good for you. Yet we still do it until the doctor says, you're gonna now have to take medicine. Your body is now affected and you are at risk for fill in the blank. Now that our life is in jeopardy, boom, all of a sudden we're just eating the kangkong and the spinach right? I remember a friend who, he had cancer and it was already growing. Tumor was growing. It was already growing, and he was doing anything that he can, right? Whatever he would find in the internet that said, "Okay na, vegan ka na," he would go all vegan. Whatever way that it says that this would be able to heal me, they would go all in, right? And the same thing, right? Like if someone knows that if I keep eating this way, it will destroy my life, so I need to stop, right? I bring all of this up because I don't think we realize how much not being holy and not pursuing Jesus every single day is a detriment to our life. And because it's not telling us, like, if you don't do this, you will suffer, right? Even though we know it, but because there's no doctor telling us that, then we don't really do it, right? I think you all know this. How many older people that you know are like diabetic or whatever, but they crave, they want, right? Anak, pahingin yung cake, right? Like on their own, they would eat it, even though they know. So they do that. So, but now what happened? The kids that are adults now, "Ne bawal yan ma," right? There'll be an accountability, right? So either one is you have the mental strength to be able to tell yourself, like, if I keep this up and I keep living for myself, it's gonna kill me. I'm gonna lose focus on the living, right? On the living word, on living God, and I won't live. Or you don't have the mental strength, and then you tell yourself, bro, I need to get accountability around me to tell me, don't eat that, don't do that, don't think, you know what I mean? Like, and so I think to answer your question in a long way is we don't do it because we don't realize not how good it would be for us, but we don't realize how bad it is if we don't